Welcome back to another episode of the DFS Express presented by Loudmouth MMA and MMAtoday.com. I am your host, the DFS Sniper, here to talk UFC Fight Night 123 from Fresno, California. The main event is Cub Swanson and Brian Ortega. This is your first time watching or listening to the DFS Express. We're going to go through DraftKings pricing. I'm going to go through each fight. Who is the better DraftKings play, keeping in mind that based on pricing, that could be different than my general fight pick. Before we get started, if you could please give me a follow on Twitter at the DFS Sniper. Also, make sure you give a thumbs up, like, 5-star review wherever you are watching or listening to this episode. We're also at the end going to do a cash game lineup build. We're going to walk you through the process of building a DraftKings lineup for cash games. Starting with the main event, Cub Swanson, Brian Ortega. It's the closest fight on the card. Both guys priced at 8,100. I have a pretty strong lead in this fight. I'm going to take Cub Swanson. I think his stand-up is too much. Ortega makes a habit of losing the first 2 rounds. People are saying he's going to catch a submission. Being submission reliant is not something I look forward to. I think Swanson's the better play at 8,100. Also in tournaments, I do expect Ortega to be very popular. The line has moved in his direction. Swanson's actually a small underdog now, a plus 100. Another reason why I think you should consider Swanson more so in tournaments. Cash games, you could stack this fight, but Swanson is my preferred play. Jason Knight, 9,300. Gabriel Benitez, 6,900. I think Knight rolls through Benitez unless he tries to keep it on the feet, and then they'll just stand and trade, and that's when anything can happen. But Knight should look for takedowns, and if and when he does that, he'll have a huge advantage. He's the most expensive fighter on the card, 9,300. Not sure if you need that this week, but he is my preferred play. Marlon Moraes, 8,600. Aljamain Sterling, 7,600. I like Aljo in this one to win straight up. I have a small bet on him as an underdog at plus 140. Moraes is a point fighter. Aljamain has that awkward stand-up style. It could be a stalemate in the feet and a close fight that Aljo could win a decision on. That wouldn't score great for DraftKings. But Aljo also has grappling upside if he looks for takedowns. I think he can get them against Moraes, and we know you want to target grapplers on DraftKings. Even if you like Moraes, 8,600 and his style of fighting, I don't think he pays his salary off. So to me, either way, Aljamain Sterling is the better DraftKings play at 7,600. Scott Holtzman, 8,300. Daryl Horcher, 7,900. I'm going to lead towards Horcher because Holtzman is a little older and cannot stop a takedown. He's been taken down numerous times in all his UFC fights. Horcher did have that terrible, boring fight against Devin Powell last time out. It was his first fight back from a really nasty motorcycle crash. I think he can get takedown on Holtzman. Powell also stalled a lot in that fight. So I'll take Horcher. He has grappling upside. Not a fight I'm terribly interested in, but the value's there on Horcher at 7,900. Eric Anders, 9,200. Marcus Perez, 7,000, making his UFC debut. I like Eric Anders, former football player at the University of Alabama, national champion, big, strong, physical guy. I didn't realize this until recently. He actually he's got a silver and a bronze medal at the No-Gi Pan Am Games. Marcus Perez, on the other hand, is a brown belt. Anders is a purple belt. If it goes to the ground, that's where Perez would have the most success. Around the way, I mean, that's a lot of background information because even though I don't think it gets there, I think Anders finishes the job. He's too athletic, hits too hard. Anders at 9,200 is firmly in play for me. I think he's more athletic and better all around than Marcus Perez. We have Lopez at 8,200. Benito Lopez at 8,200 against Albert Morales at 8,000. Again, I'll take Morales in this one. I think he has some grappling upside. I'm a little worried about his gas tank. Lopez making his UFC debut. I know Morales hasn't really impressed people with his body of work, but he's fought some tough guys. He's got a loss to Thomas Almeida. It's just, I think he's a little bit further ahead of Benito Lopez. And again, the grappling, if he wins the fight, I think he has some grappling upside. So that, to me, makes him the better DraftKings play at 8,000. Liz Carmouche, 8,400 against Alexis Davis, 7,800. I'm taking Liz Carmouche. She's a parlay piece for me. This fight's already happened once, and Alexis Davis won that fight. It's more of a stand-up affair, even though each fighter got one takedown. Recency bias, I'm trying to keep myself away from it, but it's just a different Alexis Davis than fought Liz Carmouche 3 or 4 years ago. She had a close fight against Cindy Dandois, and Dandois took her down 5 times. Carmouche is stronger, I think, and lost a striking battle. I think she's more apt to grapple for a variety of reasons. Something really to focus in on this week is that mid-range and grappling upside. There is plenty of it this week. 8,400, Liz Carmouche is my pick. I think she just out-muscles, out-grapples, outworks Alexis Davis. Luke Sanders, 9,000. Andre Sukumta at 7,200. Sukumta's third UFC fight. He's taken all of them on short notice. He's 0-2. I think going to be 0-3. Luke Sanders, I think, is just too fast. Sukumta is a boxer. I think Sanders will be too fast in the stand-up and can get the fight to the ground. Sukumta has been taken down. I think Sanders is firmly in play at 9,000. Just depends on lineup construction. Alex Perez, 8,900. Carlos John de Thomas, 7,300. I'm just fading Carlos John de Thomas. He looked not good in his fight in the Philippines. He's on the UFC roster because he's from the Philippines and there was a card there. Alex Perez, legit prospect coming up. The price is still a bit much for me for a guy making his UFC debut. Could be an interesting tournament option, though. I don't think he'll be terribly high owned. He is my preferred play at 8,900. Deval Shelley, whose name I'm sure I just butchered, 8,500, taking on Frankie Saenz at 7,700. Deval Shelley, and I know I'm saying that wrong because there's a V in there I'm not pronouncing, but I just have been practicing and I still can't get it. He's a legit prospect, 8,500. Frankie Saenz, he's just done at this point. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. I think he can be taken down. I think he's slowed down pretty considerably. I'll take the newcomer at 8,500. I'm not as high on him as some others. It's more of a fade on Saenz. This fight I'm probably not going to have a ton of on DraftKings, but the newcomer is my preferred play. Yuri Alcantara, 8,800 versus another Perez. And this one is Alejandro Perez at 7,400. Listen, sometimes you can overcomplicate fights. Alcantara is better, but does he show up? He's a history of no showing. He no-showed against Brian Kelleher. He does it again. He could lose, but he's the much better fighter at 8,800. He's my preferred play, but he is definitely a GPP play only because he has a tendency to no-show. Davey Ramos, 8,700. Chris Grutzmacher, 7,500. Ramos is bigger, stronger. He'll have an advantage on the ground. He's just better everywhere. I expect him to be pretty popular, but at 8,700, he is definitely my preferred play. Tevin Giles, 9,100 against Neto at 7,100. Neto has not fought in 3 years. Giles is another former football player who's going to look to take this fight to the ground. I think he's better on the feet, stronger grappling, except for submissions where Neto could have the advantage. That's really the only way he wins the fight, though, is if he catches Giles in a submission is really more what I mean. Giles could get ground and pound. Just Neto is limited to the sub in this fight, and he hasn't fought in 3 years. Giles is my preferred play at 9,100, but again, for me, this is probably a mid-range week. I don't think I'll play a ton of him, but 9,100, if I have to pick, he is my preferred play. So now jumping over to DraftKings, we are going to build a cash lineup today. I am going to go ahead and put in Cub Swanson right off the bat. I want some exposure to the main event this week. Kind of bit me last week. I had a decent lineup, but the main event was too high scoring. I think this will be a high scoring fight. I want my pick in the main event, so it's Cub Swanson. You could stack this fight, but let's get into a build and see if we need that. I'm going to sort by salary. I think Eric Anders is pretty safe. There's a lot of safe, well, not a ton of safe plays. I think Sanders and Anders are both safe plays in the top range here. Personally, I probably prefer for cash games Sanders and Anders for GPPs because Anders they're bigger guys, could lose on kind of a fluky punch. Sanders is pretty safe. I don't think Sukumta is going to finish him. So I'll put in Sanders for the cash game build. I'm going to need at least one underdog here. I picked Aljamain Sterling straight up, so I'm going to put him in my cash game lineup. That leaves us at an average of 8,400 a fighter. Again, for a little bit of safety, there's quite a few different ways to go. Liz Carmouche, I like a bunch at 8,400. Davey Ramos, I'm really sold on him. I'm going to put him in my cash game lineup at 8,700. Leaves 8,300 a fighter. Could go one option here is you can go Carmouche, and then you'll have enough left over to stack the main event. That's an option. So that lineup would be Swanson, Sanders, Sterling, Ramos, Carmouche, and Ortega. I'm not going to do that here, but that's perfectly viable as one option. I'm actually going to put in Daryl Horcher at 7,900. I was hoping to be able to pay up further by doing that. I actually can't, so I'm not going to play Horcher. I'll put in Liz Carmouche. And because I said it wasn't going to stack, you can go Ortega or Morales. I'll look for 6 wins here, and I'll put in Albert Morales. So the lineup we just built is Cub Swanson, Luke Sanders, Aljamain Sterling, Davey Ramos, Liz Carmouche, Albert Morales, or instead of Morales, you could stack the main event with Brian Ortega. So that's it for this week, UFC Fresno. Again, please give me a follow on Twitter and jump over. If you're not watching this on YouTube and you're listening, please take a second, go to my YouTube page at the DFS Sniper, like this video, and subscribe to my channel. It is much appreciated. Good luck in your contest. I will see you next week.